Hi, and welcome to the Work Smarter, Not Harder Rewind podcast. I am Brittany Alligood.
And I'm Scott Holcomb.
And we are part of the Program Accountability team in the Data Research and Accountability Department here at Wake County Public Schools. And so as the newest members of our team, we are taking a look back at our earlier episodes of this podcast to shine a light on how our department has been helping staff navigate the self-monitoring process.
In this Rewind episode, we're taking a look back at an interview with Dr. MariaRosa Rangel, hosted by our colleagues Colleen Paplow and Dina Cook. We'll hear how Dr. MariaRosa used data within her role as the Director of Family and Community Engagement to strengthen the Family Academy's support for families and to track the progress and success of meeting her program goals.
Yes, and so like Scott just mentioned, our theme for today's episode will be exploring the power of measuring your goals. So to start us off here, let's hear MariaRosa highlight a key idea that we have discussed several times in our previous episodes, which is that data is not just about accountability or about checking off a box. It's really a roadmap for running your program successfully.
So basically, we use different sources of data, which allows the program to set short, intermediate, and long goals for the performance of the program, but also to evaluate areas of improvement and certainly to celebrate the successes when they are achieved.
So just like we've heard many of our other participants say, they're collecting multiple sources of data at the same time, which is really important to sort of get an overview of all the different domains and areas that you want your program to be impacted. And also by measuring your progress at multiple stages. So that would be, like MariaRosa just described, the short, intermediate, and long-term goals. At those different stages, our program staff can track the performance, identify areas for growth, and also recognize their achievements along the way towards those goals.
And as we've heard like you mentioned, other program staff say, this allows them to move and shift into how they're running their programs based on what this data is telling them in those short and midterm and long-term goals.
Right. And I also love the idea that she mentioned measuring progress not only to find what's the next step, but also to recognize your wins and successes along the way. I think it's easy for us to focus on areas of improvement, but really taking the time to notice what is working well can really help our team stay motivated and to be able to reflect and really make meaning of the work that they're doing and ultimately see the tangible impact that they are having on our schools.
Yeah, and another thing she mentioned was the logic model, which we dedicated a whole Rewind episode, and our episode 2 in the original series was also all about the logic model. But it's really there, and you hear it from every program staff member we've talked to, that it helps them ground the program's work in what kind of data they need to support in reaching those goals, whether any stage of goals, short-term, long-term, medium-term. So let's listen as she went over a practical application with specific data collection examples within the context of her program.
So for example, we collect attendance. We really want to know how many parents are attending the workshops that we offer at the different grade levels and at the different schools. So for example, we also collect who is requesting the parent workshops, which school grade level. So for example, is it elementary, middle, and high schools? We also collect the topics that they're requesting and the language. And then what we do is we desegregate the data. It helps us to see which are the topics most requested and then the language, because that's going to help us later on as we plan the school year.
So right there, we heard MariaRosa give a clear example of measuring her goals in action. And the data that she was collecting and pointing out wasn't crazy sophisticated data, anything she had to calculate or come up with or dig for. It was just basic things that helped her run her program, just attendance, language preference, and things like that.
Which isn't groundbreaking data, but I'm sure was so helpful in improving her program and really being able to target those specific needs that she had in her program.
Absolutely. The data matched the needs. So By tracking attendance, topic requests, and language preferences, her team was able to make informed decisions and plan their programs in a way that truly met families' needs. She later emphasized what she notices as far as who is not showing up in their data and targeting some families in that regard as well.
Yeah, that's really important to see not only who are you getting in your programs, but also who is not coming and what can you do to get those people involved and really stretch out your resources to be able to get everyone to participate. So while we're on the topic of the data sources that MariaRosa used, one of the things that I really wanted to highlight from the original episode was MariaRosa's description of how her team continued to track progress and collect meaningful data despite this happening in the middle of COVID-19. So as she will explain in this next clip, when in-person workshops were not possible because of COVID, her team was still able to find these creative ways to stay connected with families and measure her program engagement.
COVID-19 forced us to think outside the box and think about how can we bring the parent workshops to the families when we were home because of COVID-19. And one of the things that we did, we revived the family academic Facebook page. And thanks to that, we were able to support the parents by providing them with the workshops. So we are collecting data such as viewings, how many people viewed the presentation at the time that it was given. And we are also looking at the data afterwards, how many people came back and visit that particular workshop and view it.
And I think that's just such a great example of how we can stay innovative under pressure and under these challenging circumstances. I love that they were able to still stay focused on their goals and still reach those outcomes they wanted to see as far as who was attending the workshops, what people weren't attending the workshops, were there specific things that were viewed, so specific topics of videos that were viewed on Facebook. So even when those usual methods were not possible, they were still able to gather a lot of rich data from this Facebook page.
Yeah, she was very creative and innovative and making sure she still got those same metrics that she was interested in.
And she didn't even just adapt. They really expanded on what data can mean for them and were really able to use that online engagement as a new way to understand family involvement, which ultimately just emphasizes the flexibility in the self-monitoring process, which is a theme that we've discussed in several of our previous episodes as well.
So later in the episode, Dina asked Dr. MariaRosa about, just to reflect on how she knew what types of data to collect for her program. So she gets into a discussion of how she knew what types of data to collect, and it all connected back to her logic model.
It took many years to kind of massage and think about what data was needed. And it was not until I was able to meet with your department that kind of helped me to I already had all these pieces together. And it's funny because I was already collecting this data, not knowing that I already had the data. And it was just a matter of organizing it. And I think the logic model kind of helped to put all those pieces in perspective.
So you heard in her reflection there the importance of bringing in others to really help you see what is all there, because you get a little close to your program and it's hard to see the full picture. So she brought in some members from our department at that time to help her see what was there and put those pieces together. It helped her see, that and formulate and provide evidence towards reaching her goals and what was working and what wasn't, what needed to be collected, and what else needed to be collected.
And like we mentioned earlier, it wasn't even necessarily groundbreaking data. This was stuff she was already collecting and just didn't realize that she could put all these pieces together, like with putting together the logic model and sort of filling in those puzzle pieces, and ultimately having us there to support that process.
Yes. And once again, you hear how data is framed as a roadmap, not just a tool for accountability purposes.
Right.
So, and by measuring this progress at multiple stages, programs are able to track performance, identify areas for growth, and recognize their achievements.
And on a similar note, let's now hear MariaRosa explain why data can be so powerful and how using tools like the logic model helped her turn information into real insight for decision making.
Data will empower you to make informed decisions about your program. And also, it helps you to never lose sight of the fact that data equals knowledge. And I think the logic model kind of helps to put that in perspective. And the more data that you have at your disposal, the better position that you will be in making good decisions and take advantage of new opportunities.
So I love this point about the ability of data to empower us to make these informed decisions about programs. And also, after this quote, MariaRosa added that data doesn't just inform decisions, it also serves as justification and evidence for the decisions that we make when running programs, which can ultimately give us that greater confidence in our reasoning moving forward when we have that data in our back pocket to justify those decisions. So this is a really great reminder to us that data doesn't just sit on a spreadsheet in an Excel file on our computer, but importantly, it can really shape the choices that we make to improve our programs. And so when we can see data as knowledge, we can be better able to understand what's working, where we can improve, and how we can ultimately advocate for our programs. And then just connecting that finally with the logic model, that's what can really help connect those dots and show us how our inputs and our activities can lead to real outcomes for those programs.
And this connects to our last point, our last quote in this Rewind episode. Colleen was discussing towards the end how data can be used to help tell a story about your program, and just really how MariaRosa did that in their interview together. She was telling a story of her program through data on what resources were needed, and using that data to really build relationships between her program and parents and schools.
And I also love how you say, tell a story. Like you're telling a story with your data about what resources parents need and how to build that relationship between parents and schools. And I think that you've used data throughout this conversation to back that up by telling us how many kids we're talking about, how many parents have been involved. I mean, and the data is the powerful part of that story, right? It makes your story a much more compelling one.
So MariaRosa was really using data strategically to show how her program was supporting the parents of Wake County so that they could better support their kids at home. So in this Rewind episode of episode 4, Measuring Your Goals, we focused on learning about how we can help staff measure the attainment and progress of reaching their program goals. The logic model once again was featured as an essential organizing tool that helps staff structure their efforts by defining their goals and determining specific data points that are needed in order to measure success of their program. And just overall, we heard the emphasis on how data acts as that powerful tool, a powerful roadmap and source of knowledge to empower that informed decision making. Some of the items we discussed today can be accessed via the links in the show notes. The logic model, a blank logic model, and a link to further resources to support you with self-monitoring are available there. Before we wrap up, what's something that stood out to you in this episode, Brittany?
I really love how MariaRosa and her team, again, they did not let COVID-19 slow their progress. They were really able to be creative and innovative and sort of reimagine what data collection could look like, and found new ways to connect with their families and track their program engagement online through Facebook, through that social media platform. And again, I think it's just a really great example of flexibility and creativity, and also really aligns with our own goals in our department of supporting program staff's everyday work and really being able to meet them where they are. So what stood out to you, Scott?
Similarly, just hearing the flexibility and the decision making. And also, I just loved hearing about the variety of data that she used and put to work in her program for her. So what do we have coming up in our next episode?
So in our next Rewind episode, we will be revisiting an interview with Crystal Cabral, who is a Wake County educator that in her episode highlighted the power of clear communication with stakeholders and some of her best practices she uses when sharing program results. So in her episode, look forward to hearing Crystal discuss how she uses visuals, storytelling, and real-time audience engagement as a way to make data more meaningful and relevant.
Thanks to the guest and host from the episode we highlighted in this Rewind episode, MariaRosa Rangel, as well as Colleen Paplow and Dina Cook from DRA's Program Accountability Department. Thank you to our talented producer, Daniel Bunce, and my co-host, Brittany Alligood. And thank you to Wake County student Sasha Wilson from Millbrook High School for providing our theme music for this season.